portfolio and generating profits between 40 and 50,000 per deal. That's some stuff to get into. So please put your hands together for Doug Ponsford and Mesud Doug.
Thank you, Peter.
Sali.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. A nice little group, isn't it? Yeah. Very friendly. Yeah. It's a pleasure to be here. Nice change to see a small group of people who are very friendly, very close-knit. Anyway, in the next 40 to 50 minutes, we're going to show you how you could be making between 40 and 50,000 pounds per deal using instalment contracts. And we're going to show you how you can do that without taking out a mortgage. Has anybody here got lots and lots of money to invest? That's great. We're going to show you how to do that without any money, actually. You don't need a deposit. The good news is you don't really need any money for our strategy. We're going to show you how to do that without running a credit check, without finding a tenant. Now that's another new one. We think we come into property to build lots and lots of tenants, and that builds a job, which in turn comes with lots of problems. So we're going to show you how to do it without tenants, without voids and repairs, without maintenance, and you can do all of this without any experience whatsoever. So before we start, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Doug Ponsford, and I purchased my very first property back in 1975. And in the late 80s I set up a mortgage broking practice and I became an IFA. But during my time as a mortgage broker I learned some very creative financing strategies. And I use those creative financing strategies for my clients and also to purchase property myself. So my very first buy-to-let property was valued at £60,000. I agreed to pay the seller £40,000, so it's a below market value deal. I went to the bank and raised 57,000, paid 40, banked 17,000. That was the start of my investing career. And over the last 25 odd years, I've built a multi-million pound portfolio which I manage myself today, and that generates a net income of well into 6 figures. Now, you may recall that in 2007 we had a bit of a banking crisis. Which meant that it became a little more difficult to borrow money from the banks. My strategy was using other people's money, preferring not to use any of my own. Now, of course, when the banks stopped lending money, it became difficult to continue with my property building business. So luckily Mesud came along at that time, and we have for the past 3.5 odd years been using a niche market called instalment contracts. And we perfected the system, we put processes in place, and that's enabled me to massively grow my portfolio. And we're producing between 40 and 50,000 pounds per deal, and we've done over 40 deals between us in the last 3 years. Over to you, Mesud.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce you myself. I come from a very poor background. I come from Bulgaria. I was born in a village. I've been employed since the age of 5. I was a shepherd. So child employment doesn't exist in my country. So I was quite a good student at high school, and I got really good exams, and I was accepted to Richmond American International University in London. So my family sent me over to England to learn English and start a career in the UK. I came in with £800, £825. Next I had to pay my part of my university fees, £800, and I had £25 left. So what do you do when you don't have any friends in the UK? When you have no job, your English is not great, and you've got only £25. Well, I went and found a job. I found a job, and I started working in a local restaurant part-time, studying university during the day, working night-time. Soon I realized that the restaurant had a staff house, and the boss of the restaurant invited me to stay there for free. And I realized that it was a massive house in Twickenham, West London, but it was poorly managed. So he had 4 vacant rooms. I'll ask the boss, well, is it alright if I manage this property, if I pay the mortgage, if I pay the bills, is it okay if I manage the house and fill it up with people? He said, go for it. I don't want anything extra, you manage it, take the hassle away from me. So I took the hassle away from him, started managing the house, started letting the rooms. All of a sudden I realised I was making £1,000, more money than I was working part-time. I said, this property is a great thing. I'm living for free and I'm making £1,000 and I'm working part-time as well. So that's paid for my university. In 2009 I graduated and I was looking how to make money, how to make more money from property. And I approached Doug at the time and we got together and started investing in this creative way of investing property. I didn't have any money. I had £17,000 debt at the time. So since then we have brought a massive portfolio and we're doing deals every single day. Today I've done 2 deals just by being in Lincoln. So now I'm going to show you how we profit from our deals.
Thank you, Mesud. So an overview of this evening is that we're going to look at what is an instalment contract, and then we're going to look at to show you how we are controlling and buying property using a single document. Then we're going to show some real life examples. And it's the other way around actually, because we're going to show you how to use using a single document, but we're also going to show you how we're making massive profits from every deal. And then we're going to bring our offer to you. For those of you that are interested in learning more about instalment contracts, once we've gone through our presentation, we would like, with your permission, to show you what we have on offer. It would take maybe just 5 minutes to go through that with you this evening. If you could bear with us. If you're interested, it will be very interesting to you. If you're not, you can switch off. But we would like to bring our offer to you at the end of this presentation. If you can bear with us for that. So, without further ado.
What is an instalment contract, Doug?
Well, Mesud, an instalment contract isn't what a lot of people think it is. It isn't an option. And for those people amongst us that know about options or who are dealing with lease options, if those people were to learn about instalment contracts, they would never do another lease option again.
What is it then, if it's not an option?
Well, it's a standard conveyance. Basically, we are looking for a buyer because an instalment contract is an exit strategy. It's not a buying strategy. Buying strategies we're going to talk about tonight, but it's an exit strategy, and it enables us to make more profits. It presents more opportunities. The reason why is because when we sell a property on an instalment contract, we can charge 10, 15, 20, 25% more for the property than the current market value. An instalment contract means that we are looking for somebody to buy our property, and we're looking for that marketplace that are unable to obtain a mortgage. So let's think about this for the moment. How much of the population today, the UK population, can get a mortgage and have got a big enough deposit so they can go to an estate agent and buy a property? Probably a small amount of the population. How much of the population today are unable to obtain a mortgage, either because they don't qualify or they don't have a large enough deposit? If you're an Eastern European and just come into the country, you have to wait 5 years before you can apply for a mortgage. So the larger part of the population, it's a massive, massive audience, are our buying public. So we're selling properties to those people who are unable to obtain a mortgage or who don't have a big enough deposit. So as I said before, an instalment contract is a standard conveyance. We exchange contracts with the buyer, and then they pay on a monthly basis on an instalment. It presents more opportunity to create profit because, as I said, we charge a higher price for the property, but also it generates day one cash flow. So when we exchange contracts, we take a deposit, and that provides us with cash flow day one. And then we charge a monthly instalment for the property, and that generates a massive monthly cash flow. And in fact, it creates more cash flow than any other strategy available in today's market, more so than HMOs. And the reason being is because we remove all the tenant headaches, we remove all the costs of having a tenant. Because we're moving a buyer into the property, the buyer is responsible for maintenance, the buyer is responsible for service charge, ground rent, etc. So we aren't responsible for any of those costs. We don't experience voids, and we don't have any maintenance costs. So let's show you how we're making massive profits from every deal, and we're going to show you some real life examples. And we find that the best way for you to learn is by repeating what we do. So we're going to show you a few deals, so that in terms of you being able to learn what we do, we find that repetition works best. So the first deal is called a babysit.
What is a babysit, Doug?
Well, but we're babysitting a property basically is because the owner of this property no longer wants it. He no longer wants to own it. This gentleman that owned this one-bedroom flat in Station Road in Newington, which is all the way down in Kent where we come from, was living there by himself. He couldn't afford to pay the mortgage payments. He tried to sell the property for 9 months, but he was just being offered silly money for it. But unfortunately, he couldn't clear his mortgage from the offers that he was receiving.
Why was that?
Well, because his mortgage was larger than the market value.
What do you mean? Upside down?
Been upside down. Yeah. So I think the mortgage outstanding, can you remember how much it was?
Mortgage outstanding was £83,000. It was worth probably £75,000 to £80,000 one bedroom flat. Not much, so it's gone down in value. He bought it for £92,000 and he was still trying to sell it for £92,000. But he couldn't sell it for the last 12 months.
No problem. So we agreed with him. We said, Lynn, how would it make you feel if we was just to allow you to walk away from this problem, and we'll babysit your property for you, and we'll also babysit your mortgage payment for you. We're not going to take over the mortgage, we're not going to transfer the mortgage, we're just going to babysit the payments. And what we do is, whilst we're babysitting the mortgage, we're babysitting your property, we'll actually pay off your mortgage for you, so that some way down the line you'll receive a notification from your solicitors confirming that your name has been removed from the deeds, your problems are solved. He couldn't wait to give us the keys. So now under a single document we've taken control over this property, but we haven't paid anything for it. We're simply babysitting it on behalf of the owner, and we're babysitting the mortgage payments. Now that we have control, we can do what we like with it. We could live in it, or we could sell it, or we could rent it. So we decided to sell it, and within an hour and a half we put it on the market. So can you tell us what this says?
We just sold an instalment contract. We said, well, this is buy my one bedroom flat, no mortgage needed, £5,000, moves you in, £597 per calendar month, and the flat is yours. Location of the property and the phone number.
No mortgage needed. That's the important thing, no mortgage needed. So do you think that somebody who would love to own a property but's forced to rent because they can't get a mortgage and they don't have a big enough deposit might be interested in that? No mortgage needed, 5,000 deposit moves you in, 597 a month, which actually is about the same amount as just over the rent. So do you think there's a large part of the population in the UK today that might be just interested in making a phone call to find out how does that work?
Do you think this good as the phone ringing?
From the council.
we got calls from the council and everybody else, yeah, including the neighbours.
We ended up on the radio.
We ended up on the radio and the local newspapers, but of course all that good advertising. Anyway, what did we do with it, Mesud?
Well, we asked for £5,000, but unfortunately we had a lady called Tina, and she moved in with £19,000. She said, well, is it alright if I
sell
pay?
it for?
Well, we sold it for $89,995. Remember, on instalment contract we can sell over the market value. Why? Because they're not paying the whole amount today, so they're not questioning the price. Remember, we're selling an opportunity. We are not selling a house. We're not selling a property. We're not in the same business as a estate agent. If you realize that we're selling an opportunity, and if you realize that we got the gold, they're much easier to sell. So we asked for £5,000, and Tina said, well, I've got £19,000. I'm just divorcing my husband. Tina, great. Well, when are you going to get rid of him? Well, she said, well, 1 to 2 years, I'll be free, and I'll be paying you the rest. Okay, so So we took £19,000, but we didn't want to pay all of that towards the mortgage, so we wanted to keep it. And our cash flow, actually, initially we planned to have £200 cash flow, but because you put a larger deposit down, our cash flow was only £40 a month. And we put a condition on Tina's instalment contract. If you decide to cash out early, like a bank, we will charge you £6,000 early redemption penalty, basically early settlement penalty. She was fine with it. She said, okay, well, I'm not planning to get a mortgage anytime soon, so is it okay if I move in £19,000 to pay £497 a month? After 8 months, Tina said, I'm ready to cash out. I got rid of my husband. And I got £80,000 now. Can I finish the purchase? So Tina, yes, of course you can. Are you aware that you got £6,000 penalty? I said, yes, I'm happy to pay it. She paid the £6,000 penalty. Regardless of that,
How much did we make on this?
£19,000.
How much
In 8
did we
months.
pay for it?
Nothing,
How
zero.
many tenants did we move in?
None.
How much did we spend on refurbishments?
I just had to put the yellow signs. That cost me a little bit.
So 0 cost, 8 months, nearly 20,000.
What's the return on investment on this one?
Good. So let's have a look at another babysit, similar. Bob here from Renown Road, again down in Kent. He was a taxi driver and he hurt his foot so he couldn't work, and he was £1,800 in arrears with his mortgage with GE Money. And we was talking to him on Wednesday. GE Money was sending the bailiffs in next Thursday to repossess him for £1,800. He just simply didn't have it. But he was packing his boxes and he was going to move in with his sister. So by the time we got to speak to him, we said, Bob, why don't we pay the £1,800 for you? We'll stop the repossession and we'll buy you some time to pack your boxes and move under your own steam. So you can take a few more weeks to move out. In the meantime, what we'll do is we'll babysit your house, we'll babysit your mortgage payments for you, and we'll pay off GE Money, we'll get rid of that debt. You walk away from your problem and never look back. He was grateful for the opportunity, so he packed his boxes and moved out. And whilst he was packing his boxes and moving out, we decided to sell the property on an instalment contract. So Mesud, over to you.
Bob came into the office, we signed the 12-page joint venture agreement so we can start babysitting the monthly payments. We paid the £1,800 to GE Money and we put it online. We've got a Rightmove account, ladies and gentlemen, and on our Rightmove account we can list under the deposit amount. Unlike a estate agent, if you were to list this property with an estate agent, he would put it under £155,000, okay? But because we are selling on instalment contract, we only require £7,000 for somebody to move in, so we list under £7,000. So, if somebody's searching a property in Kent and looking for lowest price first on Rightmove, do you think our property will be number one? It's like being on top of Google.
It's like being on top of Google.
Every single time. So that's why we get 120,000 clicks per month, and a estate agent get 500 clicks per month. That's how we sell many houses. So, I put it in the morning, in the afternoon, I already had a viewing. Doug here is doing the viewing. You can see he's holding his little...
It's big with the shorts on there, nice sunny day.
That's his working clothes. Yeah.
Tell us about the buyer, come on.
They're moving all the way from East London. So, these were people that were in the social care industry. They had the £7,000 deposit, but because they've been in the country only 4 years, couldn't get a mortgage. And they probably took them another 5 years to get a mortgage. And they were self-employed as well. So self-employed mortgages are just gone nowadays. So it's very hard for them to get a mortgage. They love the fact that they can move with £7,000 deposit, no mortgage required, instalment contract. So, Doug showed the property, and how did you sell the house then?
Well, there was mum and dad, and there was these 2 children, 2 young boys. One was this big and the other one was this big. And we was outside the house, and Bob was inside the house ready to show them round. So I said to the youngest boy, I said, you better run inside and find your bedroom before your brother finds his bedroom. Because there was three bedrooms in there, 1 each. So the little boy runs inside, and we followed him in, and we went upstairs, and the parents were looking around at the other bedrooms. And I went into the smallest bedroom where this little boy was, and he was excited, so excited that there was a bed in the room. He was saying, there's a bed, there's a bed, there's a